Hey guys, so bad news. I have to go back to the test site on Thursday, so we will not be having the Class Connect sessions. However, I promised you all that we would go over the assignment in class, so that's what we're doing here. I am going to go kind of fast because I have only 15 minutes that I can record and upload. So if at any time you need to pause, please do and write things down. You should have your assignment document out and open so that you can pause and highlight and write as we go so you can get your assignment done, kill two birds with one stone. So rhetorical devices are what we went over on Monday. I'm skipping the learning targets. Just a quick flash review. When you use a rhetorical device, you're using language to persuade others to think about, understand your message, agree with your point of view, and possibly take action. So, some common rhetorical devices that you probably already knew before we went over them on Monday were simile and metaphor, just ways, figurative language where you compare two things. Simile uses like or as, metaphor doesn't. Personification, where you give a non human thing a human quality, like the dog smiled or the rock stepped on me. I don't know how that would happen. Um, and a rhetorical question would be asking a question that does not require nor is an answer expected. Um, like like how about this weather we're having? Rhetorical question. Okay. So the other ones we talked about were allusion, that is comparing or referencing something from history to kind of get the point across. Hyperbole, using extreme exaggeration, like I was so hungry I could eat a horse. Euphemism, giving a more pleasant term rather than your the yucky thing that you would are trying to avoid speaking of. Repetition is when you repeat things for effect. Anaphora happens at the beginning, is repetition at the beginning of a sentence. Think of it as A for ABC, the beginning of the alphabet, anaphora. Epistrophe is when you do it at the end. And then sometimes I just repeat whole sentences, and that's just plain old repetition. Parallelism is when it's more like a grammatical thing. So it's when there are sort of repeated grammatical structures in a sentence or a clause, and it's used a lot in music and it's used a lot with repetition, and we'll see some examples of that in this speech. Spoiler alert. Juxtaposition is when you put two things together that are really, I'm trying to find an example in here. Yeah, two things together that are kind of like complete opposites. So the example in the classroom was one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. Okay. Understatement is when you kind of downplay a big giant situation. And oxymoron is when you put two words together that are the opposite of each other. So, like jumbo shrimp was the example. Okay, pausing if you need to. So, in your assignment, you are going to read Lou Gehrig's farewell to baseball address. And this is where I need to put my glasses on. Okay, called the Gettysburg Address of Baseball, the following speech was delivered by Lou Gehrig on July 4th, 1939, to a packed Yankee Stadium under heartbreaking circumstances. Gehrig, considered the greatest first baseman in history, had just learned 2 months earlier of the fatal medical condition, that word right there, something or other, lateral sclerosis, ALS, that would destroy his physical abilities. Moved to tears by his teammates and fans tribute that day, the naturally shy athlete delivered without notes the now iconic speech. Other famous people who have had ALS include, I believe Muhammad Ali had ALS, and I believe Michael J. Fox still he's living with ALS. It's that condition that kind of like your muscles kind of move at their own will. They kind of jerk around and like it's hard to hold your body still and make it do what you want it to do. So you can see how that would make it impossible for him to play baseball. Okay, so here are the directions in your assignment document. There are two parts. You need to make sure you do two parts. You need to scroll to that second page. Lots of you neglect to scroll on your assignment documents, and then you only get half or 1/3 credit because you don't do all the parts. So, part one, read and highlight rhetorical devices in the speech. We're going to read it, and I will pause after each paragraph to talk about what rhetorical devices might be in there. I'm not going to give away every answer, but I'll help you out. And then in part two, you're going to use those examples that you found in part one to fill in the columns in the table. So you have 5 examples you need to find on both page parts. And in the first column in part two, you will write the rhetorical device you found. You will give the example that you highlighted, and you will tell how it helps achieve the author's purpose, because, that's why we're studying this. We want to know why we do these things. So what's the point if we don't know how it helps achieve the author's purpose? So the next page is the text. I'm going to read it. Like I said, pause when you need to pause. Have your document open. Use your highlighting tool in Word and highlight the rhetorical devices that you find, and then start the video back up again. Here we go. Fans, for the past 2 weeks, you have been reading about the bad break I got. Yet today, I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. Right there in the first paragraph, 2 rhetorical devices. He's talking about his diagnosis of ALS, which is a huge deal, and he's calling it the bad break. Like, no biggie. What is that? That's a type of, I'm just going to tell you this one because it's one that we don't see very often, but this is a really great example of understatement. Okay? You're welcome. I did one for you. Understatement. This too is a rhetorical device. Today I consider myself the luckiest man on the face of the earth. It sounds like he's maybe exaggerating a little bit here for effect. What could that be when you exaggerate a lot? I have been in ballparks for 17 years and have never received anything but kindness and encouragement from you fans. Again, maybe exaggerating. Look at these grand men. Which of you wouldn't consider it the highlight of his career just to associate with them for even one day? He's asking a question here. Do you think he expects an answer? Sure, I'm lucky. Who wouldn't consider it an honor to have known Jacob Rupert, also the builder of baseball's greatest empire, Ed Barrow, to have spent 6 years with that wonderful little fellow, Miller Huggins, then to have spent the next 9 years with that outstanding leader, that smart student of psychology, the best manager in baseball today, Joe McCarthy. There are, 4 more questions and a little bit of exaggeration possibly here, if you want to call it that. Just saying, a couple rhetorical devices. Sure, I'm lucky. Oh, look, he said, sure, I'm lucky twice. What is that? Another rhetorical device. When the New York Giants, a team you would give your right arm to beat, and vice versa, sends you a gift, that's something. When everybody down to the groundskeepers and those boys in white coats remember you with trophies, that's something. When you have a wonderful mother-in-law who takes sides with you and squabbles with her own daughter, that's something. So he keeps repeating that's something over and over. This is a particular form of repetition, right? That appears at the end of a sentence. What could it be? When you have a father and a mother who work all their lives so you can have an education and build your body, it's a blessing. Okay, he's not saying that's something again, but he is using a particular rhetorical device here because it's kind of the same structure. When you have a wife who has been a tower of strength, oh, a tower of strength. His wife has been a tower of strength. He's comparing his wife to a tower. What kind of rhetorical device is that? And shown more courage than you dreamed existed. That's the finest I know. There's another similar structure here. So I close in saying that I might have been given a bad break, but I've got an awful lot to live for. So we found understatement. We found some of these things here. I don't know that we found this one. We definitely found the first two. Well, let's go to the second page, or the next page. Okay, I have filled in some of this for you, partially because this is the second time I've made this video because it was too long, but partially because I want to save some time. So we found examples of all 5 of these rhetorical devices just through reading the speech above in this previous slide. So we found understatement, rhetorical question, repetition, parallelism, and metaphor. Now, I'm not going to tell you everything because I want to grade what you know, not what I know. But use this one as an example. You may use this if you like. If you are super awesome and you want to use something different, go for it. More power to you. Understatement. Fans, for the past 2 weeks, you have been reading about the bad break I got. So you put the rhetorical device in the left column here. The middle column, you put the example from the text that you highlighted. Okay. And then here, how it helps to achieve the author's purpose. Well, when he was giving this speech, he was really, it was a farewell speech. And lots of times when people make a farewell speech, they thank those who have helped them through their career. And so he was trying to, I believe, when he said bad break, he was trying to minimize what was really happening, why he had to leave, and instead draw the attention toward those people that he wanted to thank and say goodbye to. Okay. Not only the fans, but all those people that he worked with and his wife. So there were lots of rhetorical questions. Again, as I said, if you need to pause to write this stuff down, do it. Okay. And then start it up again. There were tons of rhetorical questions in this speech. Write one here and then tell me how you think it helped to achieve his purpose. Why did he choose to write what he wrote as rhetorical questions? Why would he do that? There was some repetition. There was just a couple sentences that were repeated that we found. Why do you think he chose to repeat those 2 sentences? And then there was parallelism. Remember when I said parallelism goes with repetition? There were other forms of repetition in there. If you would prefer to use the other form of repetition that was in there, go ahead. But it was used, this parallelism was used with that repetition. So remember, I said it's just a similar structure of how things are written, grammatical structure. So why do you think he chose to write those particular things that he was grateful for? Seems like what he was doing here. When. This, oh, that was an aphra, wasn't it? We did find an aphra. But why do you suppose he chose to write this same structure over and over? How did that achieve his purpose? And then he used his wife, and I guess I'm giving this one to you too because it was in here. A tower of strength. How did it achieve his purpose to mention her last and call her a tower of strength? I mean, she's gonna be the one that's with him, right? She was the one that was with him after all. He's leaving baseball, but he's not leaving her. So how does that help him achieve his purpose of this whole speech where he was saying goodbye and thanking people? Okay, hopefully you will be able to turn in your assignment. Go back and watch it if you need to, and you can recognize the rhetorical devices, and you can complete your assignment, and you could, if I asked you, point to Aristotle up here, and then put it in the Dropbox. And I will see you guys on, I hope, on Monday.